Alright, so we're moving on to research design, in other words, designing the nature and extent of the research. So really what this is just an outline or a framework or a plan for the research project. This is important because it will ensure the legitimacy and soundness of the research findings. So we need to have a sort of structured approach which is thought through what we want to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. It's not just an ad hoc let's just collect a bit of data about this approach that will work. So it's really just basic guidelines which will determine, broadly speaking, whether research will be qualitative, quantitative, or there's also something which is called mixed methodology. So really, if you're looking at the two broad approaches, qualitative research is more about trying to understand. So typically you might ask somebody, how does that make you feel? What do you think? What conclusions can you draw from that? As opposed to qualitative, as opposed to quantitative research, which is really looking at kind of relationships between one thing and another normally, and you do this by way of statistical or mathematical computations, and at Fort Hare we use SPSS as a way of computing these different relationships. And broadly speaking, it's not really part of this course, but if you're looking at quantitative research, then you suggest that there is some kind of reality, there is some rules or understanding that everybody agrees to, and you can draw conclusions about that. Whereas qualitative research is a bit broader. It sort of accepts that different people might have different understandings or different realities in terms of which they live their lives. That's taking things a little bit further than this course, but it does sort of give you some sense of the difference between the two approaches. There's also a mixed method research, which tries to combine the best of qualitative and quantitative research. So typically what you do your quantitative research and draw conclusions about broad relationships or focused relationships, should I say. Then you do qualitative research. So you'd take your findings and then interview a limited amount of people, perhaps, or you could use focus groups. We'll come to that in due course, the different types of qualitative methods, and then really just trying to understand the quantitative results, and it's often quite a useful way of approaching research, particularly marketing research. And just broadly speaking, just a table to try and understand the differences between qualitative and quantitative research. Yeah, it's in your book and you can kind of read through it, but really just set out what I've already said. Qualitative research is broader. It's more trying to understand people's perceptions. You interview them, you can chat to them and probe them. And typically how you would report that, you'd say respondent X felt that, for example, McDonald's didn't really care about the consumer, and then you'd normally give a quote to illustrate that point, as opposed to quantitative, which is driven by numbers, by hypotheses. You draw conclusions. You would either not accept a hypothesis and therefore conclude that the alternative hypothesis applies. It's very much statistical. You'd look at numbers and draw conclusions about numbers. There'd be cut-off points which would you speak about. Alright, so that really just gives us a broad overview of research design, as is the way we approach this type of lecturing, as in online. We try and split it up, so it's not overwhelming in terms of technologically as well as, I guess, cognitively. So we're going to stop here, and then we're going to move on to the next lecture, which will be 2.5.2.